Charlemagne's empire is remembered as Europe's rebirth. In truth, it is built to collapse. He crushes the pagans, he humbles the Lombards, he holds back Islam, and in Rome, he is crowned emperor, master of a realm stretching from the Atlantic to the Alps. To many, it looks like the return of Rome itself, but less than 30 years after his death, that empire shatters. 843 AD. The Treaty of Verdun carves it apart, birthing France, Germany, and Italy. Most blame his heir, Louis the Pious, too weak to hold his father's glory. But the truth lies deeper. Charlemagne's empire does not fall because of Louis. It collapses because it is built to collapse. The Carolingians tie their dynasty to the church. They divide land among sons. They rule through nobles who grow stronger as kings grow weaker. These choices create glory and guarantee fragility. This is the story of how the Carolingians forged the greatest empire of the Middle Ages, and why from the start it could never last. For 3 centuries, the Franks obeyed kings with long hair, no matter how weak. Pepin ends the illusion. Power is not inherited. It is bargained with Rome. 741 AD, Charles Martel, the Hammer of the Franks, is dead. His sons divide rule. Carloman takes Austrasia. Pepin the Short takes Neustria. Together they are mayors of the palace, men who command armies, manage estates, and control treasuries, while the Merovingian king sits idle, a figurehead. Unity is fragile. 747 AD, Carloman shocks the realm. He abandons rule, retreats to a monastery. Pepin stands alone, master of the Franks, but not yet a king. So Pepin takes a step no Frankish ruler has dared. He sends a question to Rome: should the one who wears the crown rule, or the one who holds the power? The answer is decisive. Pope Zachary declares, "He who holds the power must also hold the crown." 751 AD. The last Merovingian king, Childeric III, is seized. His sacred hair is cut, stripped of legitimacy. He is sent to a monastery. Pepin the Short is anointed king of the Franks. Legitimacy is not inherited, it is negotiated. Pepin does not stop there. 754 AD, Pope Stephen II crosses the Alps and anoints him again, blessing his heirs as well. In return, Pepin pledges his sword. The Pope's enemy, King Aistulf of the Lombards, presses on Rome, demanding tribute. Pepin answers with steel. Twice he leads his armies across the Alps. Frankish forces besiege Lombard strongholds, cut supply lines, force Aistulf into submission. 756 AD, Ravenna is surrendered. Territories ceded. Pepin delivers them to the Pope. This gift births the Papal States, a covenant of sword and altar. Pepin dies in 768 AD. He leaves Charles and Carloman a throne far stronger than the Merovingians ever knew. But strength carries danger. What the Church gives, the Church can also take away. Charlemagne's empire expands with every war and weakens with every victory. 768 AD, Pepin dies. His sons divide the realm. But division does not last. 771 AD, Carloman dies suddenly. Charles seizes his lands. For the first time he rules the Franks alone. Now begins the rise of Charlemagne the Great. He fights pagans, he humbles kings, he wears 2 crowns, he revives Rome in the west, but the glory hides weakness. Every conquest creates new enemies, every alliance binds him tighter to Rome. Every victory makes the empire more fragile. Saxony. 772 AD, Charles marches east to Saxony, where the pagan tribes live beyond the Rhine. Fierce, independent, dangerous. For Charles, this is more than war. It is faith. To secure his borders, he must conquer them. To defend the church, he must convert them. His men smash the Irminsul, the sacred pillar said to hold up the sky. The old gods fall before the Christian king, but conquest breeds rebellion. Every time Charles marches east, the Saxons yield. Every time he turns away, they rise again. 782 AD, revolt flares. Charles answers with terror. At Verdun, he orders 4,500 captives executed. Most remember Charles as a Christian king. In truth, his faith is carried on the edge of the sword. The struggle drags on for decades. Garrisons are planted, tribes deported, baptisms forced at sword point. Widukind rallies resistance. By 804 AD, Saxony is subdued, counties carved, chiefs replaced by Frankish lords. On maps, Saxony is part of the empire. In reality, loyalty is enforced by violence. The frontier is pacified, but never at peace. Italy. While Charles fights in the north, danger rises in the south. For decades, Lombards carve away Byzantine Italy, fortress by fortress. Without Ravenna, Rome is exposed. Byzantium is too weak. The Pope turns to the Franks. 773 AD, Charles answers. His army crosses the Alps. Pavia is surrounded. Through winter, starvation and disease do the work swords cannot. Finally, King Desiderius yields. Charles seizes his crown. He is now king of the Frankish and Lombards. But this victory carries a cost. To secure Rome's blessing, Charles grants lands to the Pope. Most believe Charles has mastered Italy. In truth, he has bound himself tighter to Rome, Spain. Simultaneously, the Islamic world fractures. A lone Umayyad prince by name of Abd al-Rahman escapes east and builds a new emirate in Cordoba. But governors in the north grow restless. They seek allies beyond the Pyrenees. 777 AD at Paderborn, envoys kneel before Charles. They promise tribute and open gates if he marches south on their behalf. Charles crosses the mountains. The promises collapse. Zaragoza shuts its gates. Supplies run thin. Quickly the Franks retreat. Then disaster strikes. At Roncevaux, Basque mountaineers ambush the rear guard. Roland, Charles's captain, is cut down. The proud army stumbles home humiliated. Most remember Roland's heroism. In truth, it was a Frankish disaster. Yet even in failure, Charles learns. He will return. 797 to 801 AD. This time, his armies succeed, and Barcelona falls quickly. Finally, new frontier is born. The Spanish March, castles, garrisons, a shield of stone against Cordoba. But it is not peace. The March is a borderland, not a kingdom. Loyalties are uncertain. Raids continue. The frontier bleeds. Bavaria and the others. 788 AD, Charles turns against his own kin. Duke Tassilo of Bavaria, tied to the old Lombards, is accused of treason, stripped of his title, forced into a monastery. Bavaria is annexed. Beyond it lies the Ava Kaganate. For centuries they raid west, living on tribute and plunder. Now their empire weakens. Chiefs quarrel, warriors hunger for loot. Between 791 and 796 AD, Charles strikes. His armies storm the Avar Ring fortresses, vast wooden strongholds crammed with treasure. One by one they fall. The plunder is staggering. Gold, silver, jeweled ornaments. Generations of tribute pour into Frankish hands. Monasteries are adorned, nobles rewarded, loyalty bought with spoils. But wealth breeds dependency. Every reward demands another conquest. Bavaria and the Ava lands widen the map, but they weigh down the crown, the imperial crown. By 800 AD, Charles rules from the Atlantic to the Elbe, from the Pyrenees to the Danube, from the North Sea to central Italy. Christmas Day, St. Peter's Basilica. Pope Leo places a crown on Charles's head. He is now Emperor of the Romans. The Western Empire, dead since 476 AD, declared reborn. Most see triumph, the rebirth of Rome. In truth, Charles binds his dynasty tighter to papal chains. He is ruler of Christendom, protector of the Church. But this title is a chain on Charles, as his sons will find out soon enough. 814 AD, Charles dies in Aachen. He leaves his son not just an empire of unmatched size, but its contradictions. Endless frontiers, restless nobles, dependence on the Pope. What Charles builds is vast, but brittle. It is glory built on fragility. Louis inherits an empire whole, but unholdable. 814 AD, Charles dies in Aachen. His son takes the throne intact. No brothers to divide it. One ruler, one empire. Soon enough, perfection cracks. Charles built an empire on conquest. Louis inherits its contradictions. Too vast to hold, too fragile to share, too bound to papal blessing to ever be free. He begins with reform. Concubines and illegitimate children are cast out. The court is purged, remade in Christian order. With the monk Benedict of Aniane, Louis enforces discipline across monasteries. He earns his title, the Pious, respected by the church, distrusted by the aristocracy. 817 AD, Louis tries to secure unity. He writes a law for succession, the Ordinatio Imperii. Lothair, his eldest, crowned co-emperor. Pepin in Aquitaine. Louis the German in Bavaria. Sub-kingdoms within the empire. On paper, balance. Most saw unity secured. In truth, it had already sown division. Nobles lose their chance to play brothers against each other. Pepin and Louis the German see their status reduced. Resentment festers. 819 AD, Louis takes a second wife, Judith of Bavaria. It is strategy. The Welfs are powerful allies. But in 823 she gives birth to Charles the Bald. The deal is broken. The unity promised in 817 AD is shattered. To carve out lands for Charles, Louis undermines his older sons. Lothair's authority as heir collapses. Pepin and Louis the German see their kingdoms cut apart. Revolt follows. Behind them, nobles and bishops rally. They prefer division. Divided kings are weaker kings. Most saw a new heir. In truth, he shattered the peace. Civil war consumes the empire. Father against sons, brother against brother. 833 AD, Louis marches to Colmar. He believes negotiations will hold. But his supporters melt away, bought, pressured, deceived. The field of lies. Louis is forced to surrender. He is stripped of his crown. Before bishops and nobles, he kneels, confessing his sins. An emperor of the West is reduced to a penitent monk. 834 AD, alliances shift. Louis regains the throne. But the damage is permanent. Prestige is gone. Nobles have learned a lesson. Kings can be broken if sons unite against them. Kings can be broken. 840 AD, Louis dies at Ingelheim. The empire passes to his sons. At once they plunge into war. Lothair, Louis the German, Charles the Bald. Each claims all. None yield. The unity of Charlemagne's crown, held for a single generation, shatters into pieces. Louis is remembered as weak. In truth, he exposed the cracks. His sons tore them open. The empire that claimed to be Rome was already breaking. Louis the Pious is dead. The Carolingian dream dies with him. The empire fractures. Lothair, already crowned co-emperor, claims the whole. He demands his brothers bow as sub-kings. They refuse. In the east, Louis the German rallies Saxons, Bavarians, and Thuringians. They see him as their king. In the west, Charles the Bald wins Neustria and Aquitaine. Nobles there fear being swallowed by Lothair's rule. The oaths of Strasbourg. East and west bind themselves against the center, and civil war erupts. 841 AD, Fontenoy. The fighting is brutal, brother against brother, but it brings no peace. Soon enough, exhaustion forces compromise. At Verdun, the brothers agree to carve the empire into three. Lothair keeps the imperial crown. Most believed the crown still meant unity. In truth, it was a hollow ornament. His realm is the weakest, a long, fragile strip from the North Sea through Burgundy down into Italy. Squeezed on both sides, Louis the German takes the east. From his lands will rise Germany. Charles the Bald takes the west. From his lands will rise France. From Lothair's strip comes only fragility. 3 crowns, 3 courts, 3 armies. Most saw compromise. In truth, it was surrender. The empire of Charlemagne reduced to kingdoms at war. Verdun ends the dream of a single Christian empire. From the ruins of one crown are born the nations of Europe. France, Germany, Italy. The Carolingians do not just inherit Rome's legacy. They prove its fate. Every empire can be broken by its own blood.